The 13 Colonies by Nick Kiplinger, Jackson Tudor, and Jake McGrath. The British colonists came here to the New World so they could have no more land for their power and they could get more resources. 13 colonies were the first establishments made in our country. The 13 colonies are divided into 3 groups based on where they were settled and colonized in. These colonies traveled here for the higher resources of fur, animals, trade, fresh drinking water, and very fertile soil. There was the New England colonies, which was stuck squeezed in the middle, and the Southern colonies, which had the fertile soil and humidity, and the New England colonies with the rocky soil and livestock. Let's start with the cold and chilly northern colonies first. The New England colonies consisted of New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. These colonies were settled in the 1600s by colonists from Great Britain. These colonies settled here because of the very fertile soil, animals, and furs that they could obtain, and the fresh drinking water from the rivers that they could farm and build houses next to. Most of the land in the region was used for raising livestock, selling furs and timber in the areas of Connecticut and New Hampshire, selling rum, harboring ships, and use them for trade, grains that were grown by the colonists in the areas of Massachusetts, and iron that was mined in the areas of Rhode Island. These colonies were the furthest north of all the colonies. The soil was very hard to farm on in the New England colonies. The soil was not fertile or damp because the New England colonies did not get much rain. The land was very flat near the coastline. Tobacco and wheat need fresh and damp soil to be planted and picked. Most crops in the New England colonies were pumpkins and corn. As the British settled, they made many friends. These friends were the Native Americans. The Native Americans helped the British by trading with them by giving them fur and food to stay alive during the winter. When the British settled in the New England colonies, they did not know what to do and how to live. The Native Americans helped them by showing them how to hunt and grow crops efficiently. The British relied on the Gulf of Maine so they could hunt and shipbuild. The forest gave them resources such as timber, fur, fresh water, fruit, houses, tools, and meat from animals. The New England colonies had an ocean-based economy. This means that the British could go fishing more, build more boats, and go whaling more. Much of the lifestyle in the New England colonies were based on religion. Lots of the colonists came to America in search of the religious freedom to practice their beliefs. In 1600 to 1700, a new religious group called the Puritans had a following in England. These Puritans wanted to spread their beliefs around the world. As the British settled in Massachusetts, Thomas Hooker began making strict rules and policies on their religion. In 1636, Hooker realized that his rules of the church were very rigid, so he escaped with several other followers to Hartford, Connecticut. Now let's go to the group stuck in the middle. I think they are the Middle Colonies. The Middle Colonies consisted of the Quakers, Mennonites, Lutherans, Dutch Calvinists, and Presbyterians. All lived in the Middle Colonies and believed in religion. These religious groups had many different restrictions and policies on their religion.
This shows that there are many religious groups in the Middle Colonies that have very strict policies on their own beliefs. Even the Middle Colonies had a religious tolerance that didn't apply to all faiths. One example is Peter Stuyvesant, the governor of New Amsterdam, asked the Dutch West Company for permission to kick out the Jewish settlers in his colony. This was denied, however. Jewish settlers couldn't hold public office or building synagogues. The Middle Colonies had the land stuck in the middle. Let's talk about that land. The Middle Colonies consisted of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. Delaware was used for a trading post, but the Dutch, Swedish, and English tried to compete and control the British and take their trading post. This would help colonies trade and get imports for other groups around the world. Livestock and cash crops was key in these colonies in the middle. The fertile soil helped grow the cash crops. The land in Pennsylvania was used for growing cash crops such as tobacco, cutting down timber, raising livestock, selling furs and skins, and growing grains. The land in New Jersey was used for raising livestock, stock, or meat, and they sold iron for fortune and money. The land in New York was used to sell furs, skins, cutting down timber for land, raising livestock, and growing grains. The land in Delaware was used for growing tobacco as cash crops to raise money for the settlers and to dock ships in order to trade globally. The land in New York was used for selling skins and furs, growing grains, raising livestock, and selling timber. Now we are moving on to the hottest British colonies. If you like food, the Southern Colonies is for you. Nick? The Southern Colonies consisted of Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina, South Carolina, and don't forget Georgia. These colonies had very good fertile soil to grow crops. The soil was on hills next to rivers. So it could be great for growing crops. The soil was very wet and damp from climate, which made the soil very fertilized. The colonies that settled in this region grew cash crops such as tobacco, so they could sell them to feed the farmers' families. The land in Virginia was used to raise livestock, sell furs, skins, and sell cash crops such as tobacco and rice. The land in North Carolina was used for raising livestock, growing tobacco, indigo, and rice, and selling furs and skins that they got from the Native Americans. The land in Maryland was used for growing tobacco and raising livestock so that families could eat meat and drink milk. The land in South Carolina was used for raising livestock such as cattle, growing indigo, and rice.
Selling skins and furs for animals, and they used the land for the livestock to eat the grass. Lastly, the land in Georgia was used for growing many foods and crops on the large plantations. Next, we will talk about the economy in the southern colonies. As you know, the land in the southern colonies was very fertile due to the wet climate. This made it very easy to grow crops and many money off of them. Most homes that had plantations usually lived by rivers so they could have fresh drinking water to drink, give to their livestock, and water to water the crops. Farmers could not do all the work by themselves to grow crops, so they needed to get slaves to help them out. Without tobacco or rice growing in the plantations, there wouldn't be any cash crops for the farmers to sell. Plantations provided large numbers of workers, so that cash crops could be picked faster and planted faster. The enslaved workers worked for the owners by taking care of the owners' children and by working as a cook, butler, cleaner, and a household servant. Much livestock was also raised in the plantations for milk and meat. As we move on to lifestyle, you will realize that life and religion was very strict back then. Now we have more freedoms to practice different religions. Religion used to be very strict because it was the only religion that the natives and British believed in. The British tried to spread their beliefs to the natives so they could believe in Catholicism. In Maryland, the Calvert family was in control of the religion. They created the Act of Religious Toleration. This basically made the people living in Maryland practice Roman Catholicism. However, this made a Protestant population grow rapidly. This also made religious freedom for all Christians living in the colony, whether Protestant or Catholic. This is our opinion. In conclusion, we choose to live in the southern colonies because the soil in the southern colonies is very fertile. This way we could grow cash crops to make us money. Another reason is that we could take imports and ship out exports in the bays in South Carolina. Our last reason is that we as colonists wouldn't have to do the work, and we could hire slaves to do the work for us. This demonstrates that when the British hired slaves, they wouldn't have to do as much work. The slaves worked hard, grew the cash crops, picked them, and sold them. The soil was very fertile to grow crops in southern colonies because of the wet, damp climate. Lastly, ships could export goods to other colonies. This meant that the ships could travel somewhere else, trade with another tribe or another country or group, and come back with brand new clothing, jewelry, shoes, weapons, etc. In conclusion, we chose the southern colonies because we need fertile soil to make crops, to live, and catch crops so we can get wealthy.
And our citation was from discoveryeducation.com.